Such a horrible voice that they give us. Okay, so I had planned to go round the room and ask people to introduce themselves. I don't know if people having their camera off means that they would like not to do that, but if anybody would like to introduce themselves and say a few words about their instrument and where they're from, that would be great. Hi. So stick your hand up if you'd like to. Now I'm gonna take a risk here. Janusz?
Yes, it's me. Hello, everybody.
How did I do on my pronunciation? Was it okay?
Yes, excellent.
Oh, good.
I'm Janusz Ciepliński. I'm Polish, and I also trumpet player. I play in symphonic orchestra, and I'm also a trumpet teacher from many 20 years. And I know Suzuki method because I'm also headmaster of the primary music schools in my county. Mm-hmm. So we have violin, we have cellos, we have flutes, and I didn't know about Suzuki method for trumpet, so I'm very interested. That's all.
Where do you live in Poland?
This is Olsztyn, this northeast of Poland, we say. Okay. About 200 kilometers from Gdańsk. South from Gdańsk.
Okay. Brilliant, thank you.
This is Suzuki trumpet teacher in Poland, in Warsaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Pedro, would you like to go next?
Yes. Hi, good night.
Hi.
Everyone. So my name is Pedro, I'm from Portugal, but currently I live in London. And I've been teaching brass since I was 18, so many years ago. I'm also a professional tuba, a musician at the Navy Portuguese band. But in the moment, I took a sabbatical leave for come to London. So in Portugal, I have been teaching in the El Sistema in Portugal with brass and orchestra. And now in London, I teaching on the same project, but in England, in UK, in London. And yes, when I saw this Suzuki brass, ring my bell, because every time that I am teaching, it's not complicated. I try put everyone playing together, and everyone need to come together. And it's difficult when you have B flat trumpet, F horns or B flat horns, and the strings is I think is easy. You can show the positions and they start to play. So if I just see and copy, with the brass is difficult because they lose the concentration. So that's why I'm very interesting to understand what you are doing.
I've muted myself. Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks so much. Wenhong?
Hi, good evening from Finland. My name is Wenhong, and I'm a trombonist. I originally from Malaysia. I'm now the bass trombonist of the Oulu Symphony Orchestra here in Finland. And since I moved here, I start to have even more opportunities to teach younger students. I already have some opportunities and experience beforehand in Malaysia, in Taiwan, in Germany, basically wherever I studied. And now it gets more and more, and it's even more challenging because not only teaching kids is a challenge, and the other big challenge is I don't speak Finnish. So I would like to. I know that Suzuki has a very big name in terms of education and pedagogic music world. So I'm very interested and very exciting that it's expanded to the brass world. So thank you for doing this.
Excellent. It's nice to have you. Thank you.
Question. Are you working in Åbo, or what did you say?
Oulu.
Oulu.
O-U-L-U. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Oulu.
Great.
Thank you.
Julia?
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a French horn player. I'm Australian-British, and I'm based in Tottenham in North London, so not that far away from Suzuki Hub. I've been teaching brass, I think someone said, since I was 18 as well, and I've fallen out of love a little bit with brass teaching. I've kind of fallen into some Kodai teaching instead, and I've been doing a lot of training, and I'm working now with nursery, so 4 to year 3, 7-year-olds doing music, and I thought this was interesting because this seems to be kind of combining those two things, and yeah, just interested to hear. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Would anyone who doesn't have their camera on like to introduce themselves, or do you want to just stay quiet? That's completely fine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, welcome.
Okay. I'm just listening to your talk, and I can tell you're seasoned professionals. I don't know if I'm out of my depth here, but I did my grade 6, gosh, about 20 years ago. And I was just teaching my 2-year-old daughter to make a note in the cornet, and she did really well at it. And it just spurred me on to want to learn how to teach it. But I'm not sure if I'm out of my depth at all on this one, or if it will take some time. But I've got a good grasp of, I can play most band stuff, intermediate stuff. I'm just not up there sort of on any professional level whatsoever of playing.
Okay, well, it's lovely to have you. Thank you. Anyone else want to introduce themselves? I've just had 2 people book a 5 to 8, so I'm just going to send them the Zoom link. So if anyone else would like to say anything, please do. No, just give me 2 seconds then to send. I don't know how to get this person in because she hasn't given me an email address. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, thanks for your patience. So I'm going to screen share. This is the PowerPoint I put together for my parent education course. So those of you who know about Suzuki, I hope there's not too much repetition, although a key part of Suzuki approach is review, where you go back over old things. So it's all in the spirit of the approach. And if you have any burning questions, you can just butt in, but otherwise we'll take questions at the end. The way the evening is going to run is that I'm going to introduce what Suzuki is, what the philosophy is, and particularly a little bit about how Suzuki Hub came about and what our sort of ethos and philosophy is. And then we intersperse that with some videos of Connor's students, so you get a break from listening to me talk. And then Connor's going to talk a little bit about his experience as one of the early pioneers of Suzuki trumpet in the UK. And then we'll take questions. And if any of you have questions for Anne-Marie, I think she's happy to take questions then as well. So that is the kind of plan, and we'll wrap up around 9:30. So before we look at the PowerPoint, the plan for the Suzuki brass training that's happening this year and next year is that it's 2 5-day courses. One runs from November, I should have brought these dates up before we started. Is it the 25th, Connor? Yep, 25th of November for 5 days, and then it is next July for 5 days, and those are both going to be run as hybrid training, so will be available on Zoom, but obviously it's much better if you can come in person if you're in the UK, or you're able to come to the UK. We will be teaching people in the room, and Connor will be there, but it will be run obviously Anne-Marie is the teacher trainer. I'm also a violin teacher trainer, so I will be doing Suzuki philosophy and being around to make sure that there aren't any problems with anything and that everything is running smoothly. And because Suzuki Hub is open during those times, you will also be able to stay around and watch some of Connor's teaching in action and the other instruments if you wish to. And then, so that is 2 sets of 5 days. And then the exams, which everyone must be in person for, will be in in September. So we are just nailing down those dates at the moment, but we're hoping that everyone will be able to come to London, because obviously meeting the examiners and seeing, teaching the children in person is very difficult to do over Zoom. So if you are not in the UK, there would be one trip to the UK to make that happen. Although I think that there probably would be exam dates in Sweden or elsewhere that you may be able to come to instead. We can kind of play that by ear, but that's the general frame of it. I will talk a little bit about the access and inclusion. That is a big part of what we do at Suzuki Hub a little bit later, but essentially I'm just going to bring up the fees so that I make sure I'm saying the correct thing. The fees will be, there are going to be discounts available for low income families, sorry, not families, individuals. So if you are interested but you are worried about the money, then that is something that we are really interested in helping you out with. My computer has gone completely mad and I can no longer see any of you. I'm really not this bad on Zoom usually. Okay, I'm back. So let me just pull this up and then I can confirm what we're talking about in terms of fees. So the full fees for the 2 sets of a week plus the exams will be oh, Connor, can you help me? Why can't I see this on my thing? Sorry, I'm being very...
I'll have a look.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back to that. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so Suzuki and who he was and what he was doing is something lots of people have heard bits and pieces about, but not necessarily the whole. Obviously, I can't give you the whole idea here, but I'm going to talk you through a little bit about what was happening with him. Can everyone see Zoom in on Suzuki? Yeah, good. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to show you a bit of music. It's all about music and it's very nice to actually hear a little bit. You can see Connor is conducting our Suzuki orchestra there. That's for Suzuki Hub, and that was actually 2 years ago in June, so nearly 2.5 years ago now. This is at Shoreditch Town Hall where we have our groups concert every year, and I'm very excited we have it next Saturday, and all the kids have made so much progress. It's brilliant. So So a tiny little clip for you there. And I think one of the things that we often, hear people comment about with Suzuki is that the kids are really playing in tune and with good intonation, with good tone. And that's a really key part of what is what we're teaching, is that it's enjoyable for them to play, it's enjoyable for them to listen, it's enjoyable for them to be learning the instrument along the way, and not just that it's aiming for grade 8 by the age of something, and so it's not just about the end result, it's about the process all the way through. So Dr. Suzuki, his main kind of realization was that every child in Japan, he was in 1950s Japan, he'd lived through the war, he was developing his approach, and he had this kind of light bulb moment that every child in Japan speaks Japanese really fluently and amazingly by a very young age. And the thing that made him really sit up and think about it was, if this was any other discipline, if this was maths, if this was sport, if this was anything else, people would think that this is insanely, it's a genius. All these children are completely talented at what they're doing, but because it's language, we take it completely for granted. And so he tried to work out how he could make music teaching based on the same way. So his belief was that talent is developed and not inborn. Every child, even those with quite severe learning difficulties, learns to communicate, learns their language, and that therefore you can learn to be extremely talented. It's not just an accident of birth. He really wanted to give something beautiful to the children of post-war Japan. He was married to a German woman. She spent some time in a prisoner of war camp. It was very difficult for them going through that. Obviously, it was difficult for everyone, but he really felt that music could do something for the hearts of the Japanese children that he was working with, and not just, be teaching notes and rhythms, but that it was going to provide them with some sort of spiritual sustenance. So that was what he wanted to offer them, and later on around the world. And a method that is based on the joyful journey of learning, not the end result, so that the children really enjoy their lessons, they enjoy their practice, they enjoy the concerts. Obviously, not every child enjoys everything all of the time, but that is the ideal situation, that they are having a good time while they're learning. And a way to cater for individual learners and learning styles. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. So when you're teaching Suzuki, or if you're learning Suzuki, the approach is based on the parent, student, and teacher triangle. That the children are really small. They're starting, well, in Japan, they often start at 3. Quite a lot of around the world, they start at 3.5. We kind of tried starting kids at 3.5 at Suzuki Hub. I've taught 3.5-year-olds. It can work really well, but we found that the parents were really unprepared for how difficult it was to encourage their 3-year-old to do anything that they wanted them to do. That the children were very keen, but the parents couldn't actually make them do the right things. They just wanted to kind of have a go. And so we saw a lot of kids stopping because the parents just couldn't quite cope. So we made it 4 when the children have had some experience of formal learning. Mostly they've been in school, or they're just a bit more grown up and they can kind of follow instructions a bit better, and it's worked really well. Dr. Suzuki was, basing, like I said, everything that he designed his method around was based on how you acquire language. And so you're listening to the recording of the pieces that you're going to learn. There's a fixed repertoire for each instrument, and we have some pieces in common and some not. Obviously, it's designed to support the development of the skills that you need to play those instruments. So you can't just transfer the violin repertoire onto trumpet, because it doesn't teach the right things. But there are pieces that we play all together. It's been an interesting challenge bringing brass into Suzuki Hub that was all strings and flute before that, which is quite compatible key-wise, not so compatible anymore, but the kids have got much better at B flat and E flat major, I would say, on the strings, and we find ways to make it work. So the Dr. Suzuki's way of working was with a young child and a parent who was going to be the practice partner at home. Some people call it the home teacher, but the parent is in the individual lesson, taking notes, practicing, doing the activities with the child in front of the teacher, learning themselves sometimes, really trying to skill themselves up for supporting the practice at home, so that the children have a kind of reproduced lesson each practice, rather than being sent off to do their own thing and try and remember what their teacher has told them to do, which at 4 is a laughable idea. They listen to the repertoire that they're going to learn. They have a fixed set of books. Obviously with brass, they're still in development. Anne-Marie, is it number 3 that's come out, or is it 3 that is nearly out? I can't remember.
No, it's just one book, number 1 printed.
Okay. And
there
so
are 4 books in the prototype in all.
Yeah.
That
Brilliant.
represent level 3. It's up to level 3 as it is now.
Do you mean grade 3? Like ABRSM?
We say level 3. Grade 3, isn't that something else?
I don't know what you mean by the level. Connor, can you help?
It's the each course. So when we did our level 1 training course, it was book 1. When we did our level 2 training course, it was book 2, and now our level 3 training course that we're in the process of doing at the moment is books 3 and 4.
Okay, so for teacher training the levels is, but for the children
it's official. Each instrument has 5 levels.
Yes, for teacher training.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is so the courses are in different levels too, and it can be different numbers of books in each level.
Yeah.
It can be 3 books in some, but for
Yeah,
us,
it's the same for us in violin. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So there is this set repertoire, and there are professional recordings made of the repertoire that the children put on, or the parents put on every day at home. In the background, it's just something that is, seeping into their conscious and subconscious minds. But it means that they are learning by ear when they start. So they already know how those songs go. Just like they can sing Happy Birthday. You've never been taught how to sing Happy Birthday. Nobody needed to show you the sheet music, but it's the same thing with the music that they learn when they're very young. They are, the tunes are inside them, and they find a way to get them out on the instrument, rather than looking at the music to try and find the tune going inside and then how to take it out. So it's like a much simplified version. And the idea between this sort of learning by ear is that these children can't even read their own language, so they couldn't learn how to read music at 3 or 4, but that they are doing sort of preparatory exercises, much like if you go to nursery, you would learn about letters and what order they go in, and you're exposed to them, but you're not reading yet. And the same way that we are teaching ways to play with rhythm, ways to play with the stave, that is getting them ready for music reading, but they're not reading when they first start. They would start reading around 6 or 7 years old, just like when they're learning how to read fluently their home language. So the parents are very involved. The children are, it's very much a child-centered approach of trying to make sure that they are having a good time. It's lots of fun. And the activities that the children do each week are at Suzuki Hub slightly different, but in the kind of essence of the approach, one individual lesson where the parent is there taking notes and practicing what they're going to do at home with them, and then one group lesson. And the group lesson is where a lot of the ensemble skills are learnt, where the children make their friends, where they get to see children who are more advanced than them, and also play more advanced tunes than some of the other children. So it's a mixed ability group within a certain range, usually about 1 book's worth of pieces. And so that they are when they're watching their friends play a piece that they can't play yet, it's very motivating for them. They really want to be able to play that piece, and they want to learn how it goes, and they're very keyed up to get there as well. And then when they are helping the children who haven't learned those pieces yet, they feel very they're very kind of kind and encouraging to the children who are not yet at that level. And that's a really key part of the approach, is having those group lessons where they also obviously learn a lot of social skills. There are lots of games that you can do in group lessons, and it's not the kind of traditional approach of you need to learn your instrument by yourself in your bedroom for 5 years, and then if you take it seriously enough you get to play in an orchestra or something. It's right from the start. They have that social side and making music with other people right from the beginning. So let's have a video. This is, here we go. So that is Gita. I think she was about something like 4 when that was taken, 4 or 5. And you can see she's on a pocket trumpet.
Okay.
We're not going to watch that. So how does the Suzuki approach actually work? Where love is deep, much can be accomplished. That's like one of the key quotes from Dr. Suzuki. And this is really a kind of founding principle that encouragement, and what we would now recognize as positive psychology, is a really the foundation of how the children are motivated to learn, that every success is celebrated. The parents, if they're not instinctively a positive person who's going to encourage their children will be taught by the teachers how to develop that side of themselves in their parenting. A lot of us who are involved in Suzuki talk quite a lot about how really what we do is teach quite a lot of parenting, and that the positivity and the enjoyment along the way is a really key part of it. So they can start young with the parental support. All the brass instruments can start from 4. They celebrate every success, every skill that they develop is built upon and celebrated, and that they're trying to master each step before they're moving on to the next one. They learn a brilliantly developed set of steps, pieces, and skills. So Dr. Suzuki was one of the first pedagogues, people working in education, who worked out that if you kind of learn in like an uneven incline like this, where some things feel very hard and then you get something that feels very easy, that you actually make better progress, and more importantly, you have a much better enjoyment of what you're doing than if you kind of take the kind of classic exam route, which is like grade 1, and then you jump up to grade 2, and then you jump up to grade 3, then you and everything is a struggle. There's never a kind of moment where it's like, this is the easy bit where I just get to consolidate everything I've already done. It's always just straining for the next level. So that's a key part of what we do. You build a repertoire of musically polished pieces that you love to play. And so, like I said at the beginning, review is a really important part of Suzuki approach. Review is the word we use for just playing the old pieces. So unlike the grade system that lots of you will be familiar with, when you learn the 3 pieces for the grades, and then you spend maybe a year polishing those 3 pieces, and by the exam date, A, you're very bored of those 3 pieces, but B, you can play those 3 pieces really well, but then the next day you never expect to play them ever again, and you just start the whole process again. And so that means that within a year of learning, you maybe have a week where you can actually play 3 pieces really well. And then the rest of the year is kind of building back towards that at the next level up. Whereas Suzuki kids, they will learn their first piece, and then when they go on to the second piece, most of their practice will still be on the first piece. And so when they play 1 piece, they can play 1 piece. When they can play 5 pieces, they can still play 5 pieces, and they are polished. And then by the time they get to playing 200 pieces, they can actually play all 200 of those pieces, rather than just always playing the hardest piece and forgetting the rest of them. And they play off by heart, and it means that the skills that they practice and polish in the music that they have kind of learnt beforehand, that's where you really get to teach music, that the children have the opportunity to learn how to play with really good dynamics, how to think about phrasing, how to work on their tone, how to work on their technique and their intonation. And they're not always worrying about what note is next and what the rhythm is, and where to breathe and things like that, which is very familiar to lots of us, and it just really gives them an opportunity to build musicality and to really polish what they're doing. So they learn, like I said, they have an individual lesson and also a group lesson. At Suzuki Hub, we teach a musicality group as well as a group instrumental lesson, and that is weekly, and it's called Music Mind Games, and it's based on Kodai and designed by a fantastic Suzuki piano teacher. So as far as I'm concerned, it's really the best of both worlds. They're all games. They have stave games and rhythm games and general musicianship games, and the children absolutely love it. And it was the first time that I've ever been able to teach music theory and oral to children who actually want to learn it. Whereas before it was always having to be shoehorned in before an exam or before grade 5 theory. So that is something that we do. And I think more and more Suzuki teachers are incorporating music mind games or general musicianship, Kodai approach, whatever, into their group lessons. So like I was saying before, they learn by ear first and then read music later, just as we learn language. So if you kind of ever have a question about what would you do in this situation, if you can transfer that to how you would see a child acquire the language to do that, it's probably going to be the same in the Suzuki approach. It's really the parallels go very deep. And they take pleasure in learning and develop a growth mindset. And if any of you haven't read Mindset by Carol Dweck, I highly recommend it. She is the person who's given this name to the kind of idea that you can develop talent, which Dr. Suzuki, among others, came up with. And also I run a thing called Suzuki Book Club, which every so often, it's not really organized in terms of like every 3 months or whatever, but every so often we read a book and then discuss it and have presenters. And on our website, suzukihub.com, you can see all of the videos. They're all on Zoom. You can see all of the videos of the people presenting about books. So there is one on there about Nurtured by Love, which is Dr. Suzuki's kind of main book about how he developed his approach. You can see the discussion about mindset. You can see various other book club discussions and presentations. So, and then this is the part where I think for brass, it's really particularly exciting because it's like so new that the community is kind of small enough to be still very much at the forefront of developing a new thing. And so much respect and admiration I have for you, Anne-Marie, at the front of all of this amazing work that you're doing. So congratulations. But for the children, you know, learning to play as part of a community which is local, like your teacher, you know, your teacher and your teacher's students all get to know each other. And, you know, you see your fellow students at group lessons, you see them at concerts, you see them at busking, etc. National, we are in the UK, we have the British Suzuki Music Association, which is the kind of umbrella organization. All of our students become members and they put on various events that cover various different instruments. And also global, that I was lucky enough to take my daughter when she was 4 to Japan for the International Suzuki Association convention in Matsumoto, where Dr. Suzuki was born. And you know, to watch her when she was just kind of playing, just starting to use her fingers on the violin, play with children who couldn't speak any English and she couldn't speak any Japanese, but they were kind of doing these games together and learning in a group together. And that was really amazing to see her kind of making these contacts with people with whom she has no language in common at all, but the music was enough. So that is a video we are not going to watch because that is violins. Let's find the next trumpet video. I can't hear what he's saying, but I'm sure we'll be able to hear him play. Gorgeous. Are there any questions so far?
Yes, if I have a question, and sorry for my English.
It's much better than my Polish.
Yeah. What's your opinion about use the pocket trumpet or cornet? Because I saw that this little girl play pocket trumpet, and the oldest one is use a cornet. It's part of your method, or what do you think about it?
Connor, would you like to take that question? Isn't it just about the size of the child?
That's how I gauge it, is the size of the hands and the size, just the distance from the mouthpiece to the body. But Anne-Marie probably has thoughts on that. But that's how I do it. It's size of the child versus size of the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Anne-Marie, is that what you?
Yes, it is the size of the child. So if you start at 4 years old, the cornet is too big and too heavy and too far away from the body. So then it's better with the pocket trumpet. When they are around 7 years old, you can change to a cornet. It can be suitable for their body. And 9-10 years you can turn to regular trumpet.
Thank
That's
you.
how I do.
Yeah, it's the same in my teaching, but I asked because some professors told that don't recommend that play pocket trumpet because of brief is a little bit much difficult than cornet to breathe, but probably it's depend on child, on students.
In the teaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Wenhong?
Yes, how thank you for the question just now. So this put me into another concern. So you talk about the different size of pocket trumpet and cornets depends on the child. How about trombone and horns or even euphonium tuba that is significantly almost the same size as the kids does?
Okay. No, is it me?
Yes, please, Anne-Marie.
Okay. First of all, you must know that you are not going to be a brass teacher. You are going to be a teacher on your main instrument. That means the instrument you have done the audition on. So if you do the audition on trumpet, you will be a trumpet teacher. Of course, you can teach other instruments too. I do. Because that's what I've done all my life, but officially I'm not allowed to. But about the instruments, they usually use E-flat trombones for trombone start, but I mean they must be about 5 years old then. It's very difficult with alto trombones from 4 years old. I start on soprano trombones, but that's because I'm used to that small mouthpiece, and I will not recommend trombone players to start on trumpet mouthpiece because it's a bit tricky. You must have a lot of experience to do that. So E-flat trombones up to 9 years old, and then you turn to a big trombone with this thumb thing. Yeah, not something, thumb thing. Okay. And about French horn, you see, there is nowadays groups. There is a group for trombone teachers, and they are developing the method. They are changing, adapting the method to that instrument. And I let them do it that without interfere in it. And the same is on French horn. Unfortunately, not on tuba, but we have teachers on euphonium. And euphonium is very similar to trumpet, so that's actually not so difficult. You start on the E-flat horn and then go to baritone and euphonium, depending on the child. But about the horn, there are very big discussions because the world is divided into two parts, those who start on F horn and those who start on B-flat horn. Sweden is a B-flat horn country, and Finland is a F horn country. And there is a pocket horn in like a pocket trumpet and B-flat, and actually I started students on that, and that wasn't my meaning, but the child fell in love with it and just wouldn't let it. He just wanted to take it home, so I started him there, and it works very well actually. And you know how it is. They have to start on F horn, or otherwise they will be destroyed for the rest of their lives. That's not true. I don't believe them. It depends on the teaching and so on. And there are teachers in the United States. They are developing a small, tiny F horn. But we are not there yet. But the next step, children's horn, they can use from 6-7 years old. They are very good, but they are too big for 4 years old.
I think, thank you so much, Anne-Marie. I think one of the things that happens in places where Suzuki is new is that it tends to start with older children, and then you see the age go down and down and down as people kind of believe it and see the proof. So I think that's one thing to say, and also that this is exactly the kind of thing that, you know, I'm really excited to hear that you could be like Julia, you could be involved in the development of this whole kind of area of French horn, and I think that is a really exciting thing to consider. So yes, let me just read this. Do you have any experience with plastic instruments, Anne-Marie?
Yes, I have, and I hate them. They are not welcome in my teaching, because even a small child discover that they are extremely bad. The day they are good instruments, they are welcome, but there are two things. It's the quality of the instrument, and there are three things actually, and the other thing is that you also teach how to take care of the instrument, how to carry it, how to stand and play, how to put it on the floor or wherever it is. And with the plastic trumpet, they throw it away and drop it here and there because it doesn't matter. But with the metal instrument, it matters. And I think that is a very important thing to teach in the beginning, to take care of the instrument. That was two things. Yes, and then it's so far out from the body, so the angle of the head mostly become not the best. So you automatically from the beginning it happens to be a repair situation. It's not the very good development.
Yes, thank you. And we have one other question. I think, Connie, you'll probably be able to say the range of level 1. So level 1 is currently book 1, right? And what grade equivalent that goes up to?
Well, I think this is, I've been trying to work out in preparation for this talk what ABRSM grade, which is the Associated Boards of the Royal Schools of Music UK based examination board. And I don't really know, because they have so many skills that you could associate with a very high level. But if you talk about the sort of their ability is probably around grade 2 at the end of book 1. But there's so much there, and it can, their range is there's so many things, so many different ways to measure their progress. And
different
I'd say grade 2 by the end of.
It's a different set of criteria.
Say that again, Kate.
It's a different set of criteria that the ABRSM uses. It's like us, we can say the end of book 1 is a grade 3 piece, but they're certainly not sight reading at grade 3 level. They would be able to play scales that are grade 3, and yet they can do some things that would be like a grade 4 and some things that would be more like grade 2 within that kind of scope. So it doesn't fit exactly right with it, obviously, because it's a different approach. Otherwise it would just be the same with different pieces. Great. Okay, so I'll just show you a couple more. I do just want to show you the violins from this group concert, just so that you can see a little tiny bit of how the kids can play together and the kind of scale and sound of a big group like that. and a baby either really enjoying that or really not enjoying it. But you know, I'm sure lots of you noticed that at the B section, lots of the students stopped playing and then joined back in with the A section. And this is kind of a classic thing that happens in Suzuki, where part of how we have the kids all working together at slightly different levels means that you become very inventive in how to include children who are not quite at the same level as each other yet, to perform together and to be able to play together. And that was just a little kind of snippet of that. So I will just show you one more trumpet video. This is the group lesson. Oh no, two more, Idan and then the group lesson. And then I will hand over to you, Connor. So, sorry, this is, okay. And a minute of the So again, you can see that the girl in the middle is not yet ready to play the whole thing. So she's just practicing the rhythm on the head joint, not called the head joint, that's flute, the mouthpiece. And the other children are, you know, at various different stages with that piece. Okay, so Connor, over to you.
Thanks, Kate. It's really nice to see my students play there. Actually, it's getting quite emotional seeing them all there. Hopefully inspiring some of you. So I thought I'd just talk a little bit about my experience as a new Suzuki teacher and how I came to be involved with this wonderful method and working with Kate and Anne-Marie, who are both inspirations to me. So I didn't have a very I wasn't exposed to Suzuki very much as a child. I didn't learn Suzuki, but two of my siblings learnt with Kate. So it's in the family, and I definitely heard the music around the house when I was growing up on a tape recorder. So that shows I'm not young, but I'm young, but I'm not super young. So my exposure to teaching at Guildhall, which is the music college that I studied at as an undergraduate. It's a music college that prioritizes performance. My degree was classical trumpet performance, and teaching was not a priority. We did have some seminars and some I guess you can call them they were like once a year hour-long sessions to talk about methods of teaching, but it was not a priority for the teachers, for the students at Guildhall. I found out that I really enjoyed teaching at about the age of about 15 because I was, to earn some pocket money, I was helping people with their grade 5 theory. Some of Kate's students, I think, I helped with their preparation for grade 5 theory and oral tests, which is some of the tests you have to do for the ABRSM exams we were talking about earlier. So I worked out that I enjoyed teaching, And then as I got to Guildhall, I worked out that I carried on teaching to pay for my food. So it was a necessary thing that I started doing, and I realized that I really enjoyed it. I started working as a brass teacher when I was at Guildhall, which is the music college. I started working there, working at a couple of music services. So these are boroughs in London, a couple of areas of London where they send you into schools and you teach whole class brass. And though that work was very varied, I didn't feel like there was much professional development. I would end up teaching like that and continuing doing that until the day I retired. I didn't feel supported by those music services, although it was great to be teaching, and a whole class of 30 is a very specialized way to teach. But I didn't feel very supported there. So what I found was that well, I started doing. I should say I started. I was also a player, so I just did some work in off West End shows, and I was trying to juggle playing and teaching, and I found that very difficult. I wanted to do things both to a high level, and I found it difficult to balance the two of them. So I had to decide which one I wanted to focus on, and I decided to focus on teaching because I found the rewards were. I felt like I was, I was doing more good then. When I started working with Kate, I started as a music mind games teacher, which is the sister project, the sort of musicianship classes. That's the work that I started doing for Kate. And actually, I got that job Christmas Day in a pub. So that's if you want to just hang around in a pub on Christmas Day, and there's ways to get gigs. And I was introduced to the Suzuki community through working at the hub and seeing how the parents and children and teachers all interacted with each other, and finding the community a really beautiful place to be. And through working with Kate there, then I started doing my course with Anne-Marie back in 2017, I think. And the Suzuki method, what I've loved about it is that it's given me a real framework to teach. When I was working in the music services, they just let you do your own thing. As I said, there's no professional development. They just say, go and teach brass, and you can do whatever you want as long as they can play these pieces, or they can play 5 notes by the end of the year. So I've really enjoyed having a real sort of setup for my students. That's been really great. Having the families involved has been a wonderful thing for me, because you're able to really cultivate this the environment of learning, both in your lessons, one-to-one lessons, and your group lessons. I mean, this is the social aspect is huge, because the parents bond, and not only the children but the parents also work together, and they talk to each other about different. Some of them might compare their children, which is something I don't encourage, but they do end up talking and to each other parents, and the families become very close. So it really is a tight-knit community. And there's something I wanted to say, particularly because you're there involved with the child's practice. You hear about it every week, and you're dictating to the parents about what they should be doing in practice. You're there for the whole child's journey. You feel very much more connected to the child's overall musical journey than you would do if you were in a working in mainstream music tuition, so music services or anything. I found it very difficult. I never met the parents of any of the students, I guess for safeguarding reasons, but I never met the parents at any of the schools that I worked at, and I found that it was very distant. I was there with the child, but I didn't feel connected to their musical development, and then they didn't develop in the ways that my students have done since I started doing Suzuki. The obvious things that Kate's mentioned, focusing on tone from the very beginning, is a huge thing. I mean, what I wanted to particularly leave you with is that some of the things my students are doing now. So I have some students that are in. I've got a few that are in book 2 and a couple that are in book 3, which is like, to high level of playing. Some of the things that they're doing, I didn't start doing until I was about 15 or 16, which blows my mind. It really blows my mind. I'm almost kind of jealous of their that how they had this level of focus on technique and tone quality and learning lots of different pieces, so that they never feel stagnant. They're always learning new pieces. It's wonderful, and it really really encouraged me to think about it, that the children can do far more than we previously thought. I started learning the trumpet at 8, and I still went to music college, so I still have an undergraduate degree. I can play the trumpet to quite a high level. Some of my students are very, very high a level of technique, and that is down to the method. I have something to do with it. I'm teaching them, obviously, but I'm through the method. I've been able to really develop some great trumpet players. And Anne-Marie would probably say the same thing about hers. I'm sure I've heard some of hers are really great. So it really does work. That's what I want to leave with. The method does work. If there's any sort of niggling thoughts about that it maybe is a bit wishy-washy. It really does wonders. I wanted to also say that you can ask me any questions, because I wonder if some of you might have had similar thoughts, and not misgivings necessarily, but just thoughts about the method and how Anne-Marie and I teach brass, particularly through the method, because it's relatively new still. So I'm open to any questions now, if you've got any for me particularly, or Anne-Marie maybe.
Just before we come to questions, I just want to jump in there and also say that, so I'm the director of the Suzuki and Schools approach, and I've worked in schools both as a Suzuki teacher and a non-Suzuki teacher for 20 years. And my observation about the Suzuki approach for the kind of first, for people like most of you who it's their first introduction to it, I think the thing that just really makes the most difference, regardless of what you teach, how you teach, what the development of the techniques are, how much you care about, tone versus posture versus any of those kind of things, like at the basic level. If you teach Suzuki, you have a parent who wants their child to learn. You have a child who is expecting to practice at the very least most days of the week. You have a child who's listening to the recordings of their instrument at least most days a week, if not every day. And just those three things, regardless of anything else, just means that you have, like, in my experience of non-Suzuki teaching, it's quite unusual to find a child who gets to get that bug and like, oh, I really love this, I can't wait to play that piece, I can't, listen, look at what I've done this week, I've taught myself XYZ. All of those like really kind of enthusiastic moments from students are so few and far between, and the children who practice 5 days out of 7 are really rare. And you go into a Suzuki context and most of the children will be practicing at least 5 days a week. Most of the children are listening to the recording at least 5 days a week. All of the children are going to a group lesson of 40 to 45 minutes once a week and an individual lesson of 30 minutes a week. And just that kind of numbers in equals, progression out. Very, very basic kind of, just like a very basic sum just means that you are working with people who make progress and who become musicians really, really early on. And once you have a musician working with you, then obviously the world is your oyster and you can do amazing things with those kids. And that is, for me, what is so wonderful about working in Suzuki, is that I'm not trying to find the kids who want to do what I want them to do. I am overwhelmed with children who are in that situation. And the number of children who are not enthusiastic and excited and practicing well and being diligent is very, very few. So I just wanted to say that from a string player's perspective, but I think that is really key. So Janusz says, oh no, that's old. What do you think about playing with a phonogram in this method? I don't know what that is. Anne-Marie?
What's a phonogram?
What is a phonogram?
We're going to have some clarification.
Probably playback, I think.
Recorded music.
With playback, with recorded music, I hope.
Oh, like a backing track?
There are accompaniment in the CD that comes along with the book, so you can play along with the accompaniment. You can of course play along with the artist too, Caleb Hudson, if you want, and you can change speed to it. That's not forbidden in any way. You can do it. I try to accompany myself in the lessons, but those who don't have that possibility, I know they use the recording to play along with.
Yeah, definitely. And the offers available on YouTube are amazing, how you can get backing tracks for everything and different speeds and, help or less help, or amazing opportunities. So yes, absolutely. how do groups work? Would the teacher have a set day each week for the group? What if there are small numbers? Connor, do you want to take that?
Well, there is a set day, yes, and a set time. So it's scheduled lessons, in the same way that the individual lessons are scheduled every week during term time. I have at the moment 3 groups. So I have a book 2 group, a book 1 group, and then a pre-twinkle group, which is for the beginners. And they, most of the time, what we're hoping for is that we get more, as students. I don't know, with Kate will be able to explain this better than I can. But with the groups that they move up at the same time, the same level. So once they all sort of 6 or 7 children move at the same cohort moves up a book or up a level, there's not much movement between the groups. Obviously, some children move quicker depending on their environment. It's not inherent talent; it's just their environment. Something to say. So it's. I've got 3 at the moment. Anne-Marie probably has a similar amount, maybe more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yes, I don't have the same opportunity as you have, and I know that's different from different countries. In the best of the worlds, you have 1 private lesson and 1 group lesson each week. That is the goal. I cannot do it here because it should be very expensive. So I have 1 lesson a week, and I mix private lesson and group lesson after a schedule that I present for the whole semester. So with the beginners, they have every other week they have a group lesson and every other week a private lesson. With the older students, they have 2 private lessons and a group lesson after that, the 3rd week. And even older, they mostly play in some orchestra, so they have just a group lesson now and then when we prepare for a concert or something like that. But I also have a theory line that I follow. So we meet now and then to work with those things without instruments. So mixed with music mind game, but not just that.
I think it very much depends on the scale, how you can do that. Suzuki Hub, as I said, we have 180 students. So, if you wanted to think about it in terms of like ratios, I guess the violins are supporting the cellos and the trumpets and the flutes, because we have groups of up to 18 in violin, and not in the other instruments yet. I'm not sure we could cope with the sound of 18 trumpets together, but, we're kind of aiming for maybe 12. But if you have that many students, there is enough, you can demand that they come every week. And as I said, our students come to 2 groups a week plus their private lessons. So the children come twice a week, every week. But I think you have to be flexible depending. If you're living in an area where you only have 5 students, then, you probably can't run a group every week because it's too expensive. But it depends. Pedro, thank you for your patience.
Do you have mixed instruments groups?
Interesting. Not at Suzuki Hub, but we only have trumpet. So Anne-Marie?
I have with the smallest children, because they are all in B flat. My plan was now to turn them to E flat trombone and F horn. So I could work with 2 different keys. You see, you play the same tune, but you play it first in one key and then change to the other key. Unfortunately, one of my students moved away to another town, so I decided to stay as it is now. And that is an option, to play the same tune but in different keys, so you can still have them in the same group. But if there's just one on a different instrument and in its own key, it's not so fun for them, so you have to cover, so it will be good for them in the group.
Thank you.
My question is because when you are working with just trumpets or just French horn or just euphonious, it's pretty simple. But when you mix, you need to stop talk with the trumpets, then you need to talk with the French horns, but you lose the attention for the B flat, and the sound is not the same. And when you ask for a C for the trumpet, is make the French horn is not a C, is a is a so I'm been
Okay, there are
teaching
ways.
since a long 20 years, and always I try to find the best way for don't lose too many time with this kind of so when you have mixed groups, not the age but the instruments and tunes. So.
Yeah. I think one main thing with the Suzuki method is that we really take care of each instrument. So the teaching is adapted to that instrument best. So you have, if you teach on trumpet, we do the best for the trumpet, and if we teach on French horn, we do the best on French horn. My experience from the regular music school is that we don't take care, we try to adapt them to each other, and I don't think that's good enough. I think that is bad quality actually. Perhaps you are forced to do it if you have an ensemble, but then it's not Suzuki method.
I think the other thing to say about that is that because these children are having a private lesson each week, an individual lesson, there are a lot of things that they know how it goes. You know, often I will just play the introduction of something on the piano, and the students who can play that with the fingers and the bow and the rhythm and everything will just start, and the children who are just learning it on an open string will just play the open string. And because you've done those things in their private lessons, it needs less explanation. You can just say, okay, everyone, we're going to play Long Long Ago. Do you know what to do? And they will mostly say yes, rather than it always is a new thing. Whereas if you're teaching, if your group lesson is the only teaching experience those students have, there is a lot more explanation necessary. Does that make sense? Maybe.
I understand you, and that was what I talked about before, that you work with different keys.
Yeah.
So you play the same tune, but you use different keys.
Yeah.
So they play after each other.
Yeah.
Not together.
We have a question from Janusz that says, are beginner students during group lessons just playing in unison, or is it chamber music also? I mean, we've kind of touched upon that, but I think mostly it would be in unison.
In the beginning, yes. But I introduce ensemble playing later on. But then they are about 8, 9, 10 years old. But in the beginning, it's unison. There can be a second part, but one big thing in this is you first teach to play the melody, or in unison, just the melody. And we are so used to play in different parts, so we think that's something automatically, but you have to teach how to play with different parts. So in the beginning, stay on unison, and then slowly adapt a second part, or what you have if you have 2 songs you can combine, but they must hear what's going on, because we don't have a fixed note. We can have different notes, tones on the same fingering. So it's very important to establish the foundation on each instrument first.
Yeah,
I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts, comments? No? We'll get to the nitty gritty. So I found my budget. The course, the fees for the course. So as I said before, we have discounts available for low income people. Suzuki Hub is a social enterprise, which is sort of like a charity. So we're not for profit, and we are committed to extending possibilities for Suzuki, teaching and students to learn as much as possible. So one of the reasons that we wanted to run this is to try and extend Suzuki Brass, obviously. So there are discounts available, but at full price it is a deposit of £250 and then a monthly installment of 130 for 12 months. So that comes to 1,800. And as I said, there are discounts available for if you're on a low income, but that is that. And the other thing to say about money is that often Suzuki teachers charge a little bit more than traditional approach teachers. It's partly to reflect that they've paid for training and that they've really studied how to teach as well as how to play. Obviously, most teachers have experience at playing at a very high level, but not necessarily had actually really invested in teaching and how to teach and the pedagogy around that. So it does tend to be that people would earn a little bit more if they're a Suzuki teacher than not. And I think the Suzuki, the kind of standard thing about the Suzuki approach is that parents absolutely love it. The children love it. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone wants to do it. The only problem I've ever had in my career is not having enough teachers. It's never been not being able to find the students. And, Connor is very much in demand and there's only one of him. And so we would love to have some more people at Suzuki Hub, but also, wherever you are, I think that you can be sure that Suzuki is always something that people want once they see it in action. And of course now with such easy access to YouTube and videos and Zoom calls and all the rest of it, it is possible to show the parents what they might get even before anything is happening in your area much more easily than it was when I first started 20 years ago. So I think that's a really crucial point. And I just want to say that I think I've said this already, but it's just such a lovely way to work. Like, one of the reasons I started Suzuki Hub is because I was teaching my students in their houses by myself. Yes, I saw the parents, but I felt, it was quite isolated, and that was much less isolated than a lot of teaching where you just see the students and you're just all day only with children, one at a time or in a big group, and you really have very little kind of adult interaction. Whereas as soon as you start teaching Suzuki, you have the interaction with the parent as well. And then once you work in somewhere like Suzuki Hub, you have the interaction with your colleagues. And there are so many different layers of fulfillment as a Suzuki teacher that you are involved in this kind of locally with the other teachers teaching really near you, and with the parents and with your children, the children, and then also with the broader national association and the international contacts. And I think one of the amazing things about the pandemic, although it's had some awful things, obviously, has been that the kind of Suzuki community have really reached out to one another, and we feel much more connected with people that we would never probably meet. But that we've been able to have these conversations online and have this sense of connection. And that's been a real bonus. And I think that will stay even when the pandemic is over, if it is anywhere near being over. I think that sense of connection over the internet is something that we've all realized is much more possible than maybe we thought before. So join us.
Yeah, can I say something?
Yes, please.
About the teaching and what you have said here, for me, Suzuki teaching, it's a toolbox. As Connor said, it's a way to get to teach with, not just do something, you follow some patterns. So, and that toolbox is very important and helpful. And another thing that is I like very much with Suzuki method is this early start. When I talk to my students when they are 14, 15, and I ask them, do you remember when you started to play the trumpet? And they say no, they don't remember. So they have played all their lives, actually. And they don't throw it away so easy. Not just because of them, but because of the whole family is involved in it. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
The parents, about the parents, you have a parents course before you start, and then you don't choose the children, you don't choose the parent, but you really tell the parents what it is about, so they know what they are coming into. They are all of them positive and want to do this. Those who hesitate and are not sure, they will quit before.
Yeah, and the dropout rate is minimal. I mean, the children really, so many of them stick with it. We have a couple of hands. Pedro.
Yes. So what is the parent interaction that you will talk about?
It's a course for parents before the children start.
So a meeting with the parents, basically.
Yeah. For some weeks, 3-4 weeks, you teach the parents or present the method for them and teach them to play. That's in the course, so I will present that for you, so you can have a parents course before you start teaching.
And the parents love that. They feel so looked after compared with regular lessons. Yes. Julia.
Sorry, muted. I guess I have a little question as a parent myself of a 2-year-old, so I'm kind of looking for the next few years as well for him. And it's interesting you say children don't remember starting the trumpet. What if the trumpet is not their instrument at 10 years old and they want to move to violin? Is there a kind of a flexibility, or you want to become a French horn player? Because I know I certainly started on the trumpet and changed to the French horn, but I'm a big believer that sometimes kids find their instrument. How does that work in the Suzuki kind of context?
It's different. Some very small children, they know very well what instrument they want to play. And here in Sweden it's no problem at all, because they all want to play the trumpet because of Pippi Longstocking. So, but if they want to change, they are welcome, because and someday all of them have to make a decision of their own, not of the parents. It must be the child's decision, but before they can decide on their own and are able to do it, you help them and show them how to do. But it's not a good thing to jump from one instrument to another, but you can absolutely change instrument. That's fine. So they will find their own instrument and their own sound.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, first of all, obviously this is clear to us who are musicians, but the parents need reassuring that the children will learn very much faster on the second instrument, because so much of what they learn is nothing to do with the specific instrument, but it's general musicianship skills. But also we've been running Suzuki Hub for 10 years. So we've probably had, I don't know, 600-700 kids through the door. And I think, thinking about it, I can think of about 7 kids who changed instrument. So it's pretty rare, because mostly what attracts us to the instrument is a sense of investment and enthusiasm. And if your child gets that from their environment and from the teacher, and if they like their teacher, then it tends, like Anne-Marie said, sometimes people really have a strong inclination towards a specific instrument, but mostly it's the process and the environment that they're surrounded in. So it's pretty uncommon in my experience. We just have one question about what level for audition you're looking for the teachers, Anne-Marie.
There are pieces presented that I expect you to record, a video recording. Perhaps you haven't seen it yet. It isn't so much, and it isn't so advanced. One thing is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and with the variations, and I guess for me that is the most important actually. Then you have a rhythmic piece and a lyrical piece, and it's 20 bars or something on each, and perhaps you recognize them. And they are all notated in treble clef, so you have to change if you play the trombone. If you play the French horn, you just play right off the sheet. Don't care about the key and how it sounds. or if you want to change the key, you can do that too. It doesn't matter. It's the way you are playing I'm looking for.
Thank you. Okay, well, that's exactly 9:25 by my watch, unless anyone has any last thoughts they want to share or questions they want to ask. Connor, do you want to say anything more?
Nothing more than thank you for coming and showing everyone that you're interested in the method, and I look forward to maybe seeing some of you at the course.
Anne-Marie?
Yes, I would like to say something so you really know, so you don't feel you're cheated in a way. There are 2 weeks to 5 days of courses, but in between we have deadlines, and we are following the European Suzuki Association's syllabus, and you can go in on the website and look at it, and there are readings and writings that you have to do, and you have to present it for the jury at the examination. So you know, so it's not just those 2 periods. The examination is about playing, teaching, and the philosophy. So it's very serious work, but it's nothing if you have done the course.
It's only for English-speaking people, or
No, you can write in your own language. That's fine. But
I mean about the lessons. It will be English-speaking children.
no, you can teach in your own language.
Okay.
Oh, you mean in the examination?
In the exam.
Yeah.
Okay. You can teach without words.
I think
Yes, of course, it will be in English. I don't think, if you don't bring some Polish children with you.
what usually happens in the exam is that you teach children from where the exams are. So probably you would be teaching Connor's students if the exams are in Suzuki Hub, but part of the coursework that you present for the exam and for the course generally is videos of you teaching your own students. So the videos of your own students would be in your home language and their home language, and the teacher will be able to pick up enough to find, you know, to give feedback. And then the exam is like a demonstration lesson with someone else's student.
There is no problem. I just want to know, because maybe I will talk with my friends who play trumpet too. And could I ask for more information during my email, because I received an email from you, Kate?
Yes.
Could receive some more information about your offer?
Absolutely. So what we will do next is I will send everybody who has registered an email saying what the outline of the course is, where the information that you can find is, how the fees work, and what the process would be to audition and to apply for a reduction in the fees if you needed to. So all of that information will come out sometime in the next week. And then if you have questions, you can come back to me or to Anne-Marie, and we will sort those out for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Okay, just one quick question.
Yes, Nicholas.
If I was to have a look at it and think maybe I need to do a bit more work, because it sounds really good to me, it's just getting to a standard. Would you guys be doing another course next year?
Perhaps not next year, but we definitely would plan to do one every so often, maybe every 2 years, maybe every 3 years. I don't know. It depends on the demand. But also Anne-Marie is in Sweden, so it's not so far. Once COVID is kind of over, it would be possible for you to do that. And I think that it would be possible for you to send an audition video in, and then Anne-Marie can give you feedback that, you know, I would like you to have lessons particularly focusing on this area of your playing, or yes, I think you should join us, or, you know, it's a very open sort of discussion. So it's not just going to be a yes or a no, and if it's a no, it will come with feedback about what you need to work on in order to make it into a yes, rather than just you won't just get sent away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Great. All right, well, thank you all so much for being here. It's been really exciting, and I hope that lots of you are going to choose to join us. And if you do know other people who might be interested, please spread the word. And Anne-Marie, thank you for coming. Connor, thanks for coming. And we'll be in touch by email, but if you have questions immediately, you can always email me as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.